It's Tuesday, December 1st, 2020. I'm Rim.
I'm Scott.
And this is Geek Nights. Tonight we are talking about 1817, the 18XX game that doesn't have a colon and a long sentence explaining what the game is about. The game from 2010. All right, you got an opening bit?
Yeah, sure. Are we good?
Yep, anytime.
Let me make sure my recording. Yeah, it's recording. Okay. So, my original plan was that starting next Wednesday, I would no longer work for the rest of the year until January 4th of next year. I would resume working again.
Oh, yeah, I remember that plan.
And this is because my company, although they dropped hints that they might do something, had not announced any change to the number of vacation days that could be carried over to next year. And I already had carried over 10 to this year.
Oh, so you're already pushing the envelope.
And I could not travel anywhere, so I could not use those days for anything meaningful. What was I going to use them to? Stay home, which I do every day anyway, right?
Yeah.
So I ended up being like, well, I'm going to lose these days if I don't use them. So I used all the days I could, stacked up at the end of the year. And I took off the whole week of Thanksgiving, because whatever, that's nice anyway, right? And then I come back from the Thanksgiving to work yesterday, first day of work, and I see some announcement. It's like, yeah, we're going to let you bring over all your days. So I couldn't.
All? Motherfucker, I only get to put over 10.
So I couldn't bring over the 10 days from last year.
No, I guess that's fair.
Because I've already used those pretty much, right?
I mean, weirdly, I used a lot of vacation days this year because MagFest and PAX East did happen.
I did use those, yeah, right.
I also went skiing before COVID.
My work is just automatically closed from Christmas Eve through New Year's, but I took off like this 2.5 days before Christmas, right, that week. So I kept that off, right? But I canceled, I guess, 8 vacation days, and which I will now carry over, right? So, so that's basically I'm carrying over 18 days, and I guess I could have carried over 20, but I'm carrying over 18. So next year I will have 38 vacation days, and hopefully traveling will be legal next year and safe to do, in which case I will do some ridiculous traveling like I have never done before.
Yeah.
Not just the conventions, but also who knows what else, right? Maybe
telling you the go-to, start with some like easy long weekends in like cities in Europe.
Yeah, I could do that. I could see some castle. I could bike very, very far. I kind of want to do that.
Yeah, I'm still planning a big long trip in Asia and like a long weekend in Paris, and I've got the itch. I'm finally gonna do it if I can. This will have to wait till like 2022 probably, because even if COVID's under control,
even if it becomes safe to travel, the price of traveling will skyrocket.
Yep, suddenly, yeah, literally everyone who can afford to is like, I'm just gonna spend a weekend in Paris.
Exactly. We destroy the earth with some more plane exhaust, right? So that's why I was thinking, do something like bike very far.
Yeah. We're thinking about next summer biking to Rochester from New York City.
You can do that.
There's once you get up north, there's a path that's pretty long that goes west.
Yeah, but it's not.
Yeah, it'll be on the road for good chunks of it until you get to the Erie, but the Erie Canal parts are really nice.
There was an Empire State ride, which I think was like from New York City to Buffalo that I kind of wanted to do, but it's one of those ones you have to fundraise a pile of money.
Yeah. Or you can buy your way in.
Yeah, like with a pile of money.
I mean, I remember I looked at that way back because I was like, okay, I don't really want to like have to volunteer a whole bunch to do the New York Marathon in the future because I'm busy. So what would it take to just buy my way through the lottery? And it is a lot of money. Good God, it is a lot of money.
There is a famous ride called the Ragbri, which is where you bike across the state of Iowa. And first of all, I don't really want to go to Iowa, but also...
have I ever been to Iowa? I think I've been to Iowa once.
I have not been to Iowa, no. I don't think I've been...
Look at my map and see if I've been to Iowa.
I guess I've been to Iowa if this plane to Seattle flew...
Nope, I've never been to Iowa. The closest I've been is Omaha, Nebraska, which is not that close.
Unless the plane went over it, and that counts somehow.
Yeah, literally the closest I was right on the edge. I was almost in Iowa, Actually, wasn't man? My
Iowa.
meeting might have been in Iowa. Now I gotta zoom in and see. Nope,
Edging Iowa.
nope. I was edging Iowa. I never actually crossed over the border. I was in Nebraska the entire time.
Okay. Well, but that ride had some drama, and I think split into 2 rides or something, or who knows. There was some. I don't know what the drama was. I just know that there was drama, and that one of the rides is good and one is bad. One of those forks to fork.
1, 2, 3, 4. I was 4 miles away from being in Iowa.
So yeah, I guess I'm going to be working this week, the week after that, and the week after that, and then no more work until January 4th. So
Oh,
not really that big a difference, but I had some amount of planning of stuff I was going to do the rest of the year, and I guess that will be reduced somewhat significantly, right?
yep. The one thing is, I'm pretty sure my business travel is going to pick up again pretty hardcore after COVID. A lot of business globally has just been deferred for basically a year. And
Let someone else pay for it. That's fine.
yeah, well, the only reason I mentioned that is I'm excited about it because my worry is also your worry that everyone's going to try to travel and it's going to be really hard to travel next year for a while. But business travel kind of doesn't worry about that. Like they just send you no matter what the cost.
Well, the thing is, a business travel will not suffer. They'll just pay, right,
Yep.
and make it. And everyone who needs to fly for business will fly for business, but that will put pressure downwards on people flying for non-business, making the prices higher.
Because like very few
Also-
people, like it's like I'm wealthy. I don't fly business class unless someone pays for it. That shit is crazy expensive.
But I think it's also going to put pressure from bigger businesses on smaller businesses, right? There are only so many first class seats and only so many flights. I think people who are, say, used to flying first class and will be flying for business will end up having to sit in coach or one of those a lower class of seats.
Oh, I think you're going to see a lot of that. I've been
your big company will take up all the first class seats, and then the biggie company, kind of big, will take up all those premium whatevers.
Yep.
And
Premium economy. That's the part that sucks because I will never buy business class like with my own money because it's so ridiculous. But premium economy for a really long flight, that's like the sweet spot of it's expensive, but it's just about worth it if you get a deal as a person to pay for. Like flying to Australia, premium economy compared to coach, it's like night and day.
It's going to be at the point where I think, the seat next to the toilet that nobody wants is going to be as expensive as like premium economy used to be.
Yep. I think there's going to be very few cheap flights except to places no one wants to go.
As soon as passports start working again and places let you in.
You know what the secret's going to be? Go to places that are not popular or common tourist destinations, but that would be interesting to you.
I think that's a good strategy. Another good strategy is to use a different method of transportation.
Yep, fly somewhere weird and then like take trains or bicycles around. Do a trip.
Or just don't use a plane in the first place. Use like a boat.
Yeah. Not a cruise. Don't cruises suck.
No. Not a cruise.
I would do Amtrak across America. That could be fun.
Yeah, any kind of
My biggest regret in my entire like working life was way back. I did this really I did like this 3-week business trip all over Europe for like just a bunch of stuff. Like I took all my business travel I normally do over the course of like a quarter, and I got my company to agree to let me just do it all in one long trip.
But then again, also, right? Not.
But what the point was, I had the opportunity, instead of flying from Germany to Istanbul and making some stops along the way, I thought about taking the literal Orient Express.
Yeah, you could do it.
But it ended up being too expensive and way too far out of the way.
But just like this downward pressure going to be on the cheaper, plane seats, that's, the whole industry is going to have, price pressure in terms of like, oh, okay, well, you can't go to Disney World because everyone who's already going there, it's full now because we can finally go there safely. Disney World is full.
Dude, Cedar Point is already selling season tickets for post-COVID times, and they're already selling out. People are making reservations.
It's going to be full too.
Yep. Got to go off the beaten path a little bit. I feel like
you have to go off a lot because other people are going to be pushed off the beaten path as well.
I feel like the PAXs that haven't sold out for a while are going to sell out so hard when they can happen.
Could be.
I think it's going to be trouble to get hotels for PAX East 2022.
I mean, probably.
I mean, it's already trouble in non-COVID times to get hotels for that con, but all right. So, in some gaming news, this is such a small thing, but it's such a big deal because it's like this is an example of a user experience improvement that is just great for everyone and obvious in retrospect. And I don't know why. I'm surprised that Nintendo did something like this.
Well, no, I'm basically the news is one of those things where it's almost like a bad news. It's not yay, you finally did this. It's boo, why were you so stupid that you didn't do this until now? You suck.
Yeah,
right?
well,
that it took you this long.
I'm annoyed. One, my Switch should just be able to like send files to arbitrary places. Like I should be able to tweet directly from the Switch. I should be able to just like hit a button and have the pictures appear in like my Nintendo account to download.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, so the way the Nintendo Switch has on it a physical button on the left controller to take screenshots and video, right? It's a built-in feature so much that it has its own goddamn button. But until just like yesterday, the only way to get those screenshots and videos off of the Switch and onto the internet where you would share them is the Switch itself had some automatic sharing functionalities. You could connect your Switch to, say, Twitter to automatically tweet your photos and videos straight from the Switch.
Yep.
You usually don't want to do that. You want to edit it or do something else to it first, or share it on a service that's not supported by the Switch.
And also it was not configurable enough or usable enough.
Yeah, and then the other thing you could do is, the Switch does have an SD card hidden under the little T-stand thing, right? You could take the SD card out, put it in your computer or an SD card reader, and read the images off of it as if the Switch was a camera and it was just photos that the Switch took, right?
Yep.
So that works, but it's a hassle because a micro SD hiding under the Switch. You got to take your Switch out of the dock, go to the computer, drag and drop, put it back in the Switch, right? It's not a good experience to do it that way. I mean, even when I have a camera where the SD card is much more accessible, I will frequently just plug the camera in with a USB cable because it's easier than taking So what they did is they made a firmware update to the Switch to do something that should have been there on day one, which is there's a complicated garbage procedure where you can get photos off of the Switch by it'll display a QR code on the Switch. You take a photo of that with your camera, and then that'll help you get the photos from the Switch to your phone. And two, the smart thing, you can now just plug your Switch in with a USB cable to your computer and get the photo.
Oh, I didn't notice that part.
That's just obvious. It's like, that's what should have been there. It's like, why?
That's so much better because it's so fiddly to get that stupid SD card out.
Right. It's like you just plug your Switch into your computer with a cable, boom, download the files right off there, done. It took, how long has the Switch been around? 2 or 3 years?
That's what I was getting at. This is such a good UX improvement, but it only was an improvement because Nintendo'd for so long.
Right. They're trash for how many years with this awful functionality.
Yep. But at least we're at a saturation point where pretty much anyone who has a Switch has a smartphone. Like even kids have smartphones, so I think it seems like it just works.
Switch still has the stupid thing where if you want to do voice chat in a Switch game, you have to open up the separate app to do it. It does work, but
Yep. I've never tried it, and I doubt I ever will.
It worked nicely, but it's still, it's like you're going to be on your phone while you're playing your Switch.
So, in some other news, Super Mario Maker is not going to let you upload levels anymore in 2021.
Yep. So I just wanted to bring this up. It's sort of obvious, right? The Wii shop died a while ago, right? I'm sure the 3DS shop is probably coming soon. It's going to die at some point. Get ready. And the Wii U, which no one bought Wii U's, go look at the sales numbers of Wii U versus Switch, and it'll really put things in perspective for you how awful the Wii U sold and how almost no one has one. But they're going to shut down the online Mario Maker features for the Wii U original Mario Maker, not Mario Maker 2 that's on your Switch. That's still going strong. But one day, the Switch ones are going to shut down too in like 2030 or some, close, probably not even 2030, maybe 2027, 28, something like that, right? At the pace we're going. And this is why if a game is available on PC and you have a PC, which you should have, you should get it on PC.
Unless you are willing to just accept the fact that that game will one day disappear and you'll never be able to play it again.
Yep.
Your save game will be gone.
Yep. PC stuff. Yeah. Sometimes online services for MMOs and stuff go down, but people find a way on PC. If it's an EXE, people can somehow find a way.
There's an exe file where you can make Tribes 2 work, and there's another exe file that it basically fakes all the servers necessary to make Tribes 2 work. And I just found that website. Not only is it still up, but someone posted there as recently as last May.
Yep. So yeah, Mario Maker is pretty much like it's as soon as that server goes down, it's like that's it. There's like all those Mario Maker 1 levels are just gonna be like lost to the archives of
like
Nintendo.
Tears in the rain.
Well, I think they're gonna remove just the functionality to upload new levels.
Yeah, but how are you gonna download them and play them?
Right, but yeah, the downloading functionality is, I guess, still going to be there for now, I think.
Well, Super Mario Maker itself will disappear from the eShop entirely in January.
Yep. And so it's like, if you can't download more, like the whole thing is just like, it's like, wow, people put all that work into all those levels. And there's such a, huge amount of content there. And even if Nintendo keeps backups somewhere, it's like, wow, that'll just be lost.
Yep, I've seen things you people wouldn't believe. Bullet bills off the shoulder of Bowser's castle.
Right, but it's like, not all those levels are meaningful, but there's a lot of work that went into a lot of levels, and if you don't have them like saved to your Wii U in advance, like those will be the only levels that you'll be able to play. You won't be able to get any more than anyone else has worked on.
Yep, but also, unlike, say...
The Mario Maker 2 database of levels is even bigger, even more enormous, right? So many more copies sold, I presume, because the Switch sold better. When those are lost, that'll be a real damn shame, right? So...
But even worse, if someone tries to hack something together to make it work, Nintendo is not known for letting fans do anything. Like Nintendo shut down that Smash tournament a little while ago.
Even if you were able to make a perfect Mario Maker server and use DNS to trick your Wii U into connecting to that instead, and it worked 100% identically to the original one, that was perfect in every way, you don't have all those levels that got made.
Unless you're hacking this now and you're downloading all these levels somehow.
You would have to hack into Nintendo's server and steal all the levels. Even if you have a legal copy of the game, you can only download so many levels. Via their APIs or whatever.
Yep. And everyone likes to throttle APIs lately.
Yep, so.
All right. But anyway, things of the day. What do you got?
All right, so, just a talented jazz musician, right? This woman from Sweden named Gunhild Carling, right? Jazz musician, among other things. Vintage music and fashion. If you go to their website, gunhildcarling.net, they got a whole bunch of content posted. It's like 159 pages of content, and they're updating frequently. It's like the latest post is November 27th of this year. Some live performance on a YouTube channel, right? But on Twitter, a video of Gunhild Carling went around and was much retweeted with good reason. But my thing of the day is the original YouTube video that Twitter was taken from, because the Twitter video is only a minute something long. The full video is 3 minutes something long. There's a performance, I think, for 2014 in Central Park by Gunhild, playing some hot swing jazz music on a bagpipe. And that is not something I'd seen before in my entire life. That's why it got so many retweets, and that's why you should check it out. I've only ever heard bagpipe music from a bagpipe in my whole life.
Is pretty cool.
I want to hear, I bet there's metal bagpipes. If I search for them, they're going to be there, right?
I mean, the drone feels like a drone feels like it would fit right in with some death growling.
1,000% chance there is already metal bagpipe music, right? I would never bet against that. Not even one penny.
The next step is we need bagpipe wave.
Yeah, but I imagine there are some genres of music the bagpipe has not hit on with yet, but jazz is not one of them.
So my thing of the day is a very simple website. It covers the entirety of the United States of America and Canada, and also much of the UK and almost all of Germany. This website will do one thing. you can look at any McDonald's in any of those places, anywhere, and
Awesome.
know right now in real time if their ice cream maker is broken or not.
Well, how are they getting this information? It must be crowdsourced, right?
So that is
You
the
go into
coolest thing.
McDonald's, you try to order ice cream, it's not working. You report it to this website.
So this website, the way it works is Rashik, the individual who made it, reverse engineered a McDonald's internal API and then set up an app that makes an order. It attempts to spend $18,752 every minute by buying one small ice cream cone at every McDonald's on Earth to see if it'll let you put it in the cart.
Mm.
And if it doesn't let you put it in the cart, then it knows that the machine is broken. And then it decides not to.
Or they don't have one.
He talks a little more about how they actually do it. But basically, you can infer whether or not the ice cream machine is working from the way the cart works.
What if a new McDonald's opens up? Does it like update his shit?
Yes.
Okay.
So he goes and tries to buy one ice cream from every McDonald's in America and then closes that out of his cart instead of buying it every minute of every hour of every day to make this website work.
And McDonald's doesn't notice or care?
I guess not. It's
Okay.
hard to, I guess they could try to like block his IP from buying things from McDonald's,
Sure.
but they seem to have not caught on, or if they've caught on, they don't care. And this website just works. And I'm zooming in right now and I can see that there's almost no McDonald's anywhere near me, thankfully.
Yeah, there is. There's one on 21st Street.
That's a bit of a ways away.
There's one on the train on Broadway.
Yep, I see
and,
Broadway at 31st. I see that one. The ice cream machine there is currently
Just
working.
Look out the train window and you can see the play place in there.
They checked it. The ice cream machine there is currently working.
Okay.
Oh, but the one across the Queensboro Bridge and then down at 50th Street, no ice cream right now.
Uh-oh.
So, in the meta moment, I did not get the Hanzo signal,
And neither did I.
so we're not reading the Tale of Yanji yet.
I am reading some Adventure Time comics, I guess.
Yep, I'm reading some nonfiction about elections and political machines.
It's a little late for that.
Not yet, because the Georgia primary or the Georgia Senate runoff is happening.
I'm sure that book will help turn the tide.
But what the book is about, I'll talk about it later, but the book's interesting because it's basically a current modern poli-sci take on the difference between people who follow politics and are very well informed about it versus the people who follow politics, are very well informed about it, and do something other than just sending money. Like, how do you get directly involved and actually make a difference in the current political machines? Not counting, the problem is, you know what it doesn't cover, kind of specifically? New York politics, because New York politics is a completely different world from like most other American politics, and none of the things that apply anywhere else actually matter here. Here, I talk about the political machine. New York politics is more like a modern Tammany Hall. Like, there is a political machine, and you have to spend your entire life getting like sucked into that machine, and then one day when you're old, they'll let you pull one of the levers.
I'm aware.
So this won't apply to us getting involved in like Queen's politics, but it might apply to like the rest of the country. It's interesting stuff. It's stuff I don't know a lot about, like that level of politics. But I'm not reading the Tale of Genji as a result. We got no cons coming up. There's talk of the online Megfest. Stay tuned. We will be involved in that in as many capacities as we can. They have our sword. We'll see how it goes. And otherwise, we're just trying to make stuff. Follow our YouTube channels. Scott's making stuff. I'm making stuff. I had an idea on how to make the Utena show quicker, and I rewatched the next episode. You know what the next episode is? A full-on Black Rose duel.
Black Rose episode, I know that much.
It's the jury duel in Black Rose.
Okay.
Because the episode we last did was an Anami episode.
I forget if she fights the dude or the girl.
The dude's not in yet. The dude is in the final arc with the cars.
Okay. So
Ruka does not come back. This is phase 2 of the jury story arc.
Okay.
But I watched the episode again. It was real good, and I took some notes, and maybe we'll talk later about how we will do a show about it, maybe without having to do the full production that we do for a panel, because that's a pain in the ass. We'll figure it out. That's all I really got. meta moment wise.
Yeah, come find us on the internet. We're around. We got forums, we got Discords, we got all kinds of stuff. Talk to us.
Yep. So we've done several shows on 18xx games, and we stopped doing shows. We've played more of them. We haven't reviewed them all because we don't want to turn GeekNights into just the 18xx games podcast.
Yeah, there seems to be a lot of things that we like that have series, right? And you could make an entire podcast about, say, I mean, we were talking about Jackbox games because a new one just came out, Jackbox 7.
And there's like game design stuff to say about every Jackbox that came out.
But it's like they come out with a Jackbox every October. That's one. If we were to do a Jackbox episode every year about the new one that just came out, that's one. We only do a Tuesday show every other week. There's 52 weeks in a year. That would be 1/26th. Every 26th Tuesday Geek Nights gaming episode would be about Jackbox.
Yep.
Leaving only 25 for other things. Like, we can't just keep doing every episode about the same damn thing.
Yep. The problem is COVID means we're playing games. We're playing games that are easy to play during COVID. And what's very easy to play? 18xx games.
Right. So, we already did 2 or 3 shows on 18xx games. What would possibly justify us doing yet another one? Hopefully the last one, unless a really revolutionary one comes out sometime.
Yep.
But 1817, the one we are talking about today, is dramatically different from the other 18xx games, in that the way the stock market works is basically more fully featured. It's not just buy and sell, the end. It's buy, sell, short, merge, acquisition,
get loans,
acquisition, right? Loans, interest, paying off loans, hostile takeovers, liquidations.
And it materially changed my relationship with 18xx games because, and we'll review the whole game, but
right. I knew about this one in the past because it's the New York one. Because it's called 1817 because 1817 is the year the New York Stock Exchange formed.
Yep.
And as opposed to the year being related to trains or anything like that.
Yep.
And so the game, it's actually a lot less focused on the train action and much more focused on the stock action. The train action, it's like there's unlimited tiles. It's like the
train action is more it changes the values of tokens and things for acquisition, but it also is just information that you use in the course of deciding how to invest and manage the company.
Yep.
It's like context for that.
It's all about stocks and stuff. And I knew that it had short selling, which the other ones didn't have. And I was like, ooh, but when you think about it, the huge list of things you can do, it's like, man, that, 18xx is already scary to some people. It's like this one's got to be extra scary to some people.
And
right?
it would be to a point. This is not your first 18xx game. You will not enjoy it if you've never played one of these games before.
Well, you might if you are, the kind of person who can, play a complicated game. I think also, if you look.
Well, I guess the trouble you'd have is that it's very difficult to learn this game if you don't have the context of 18xx games, because for us, all we had to look at were what's different. And that really increased our enjoyment. We can engage with it with fewer plays. We had to play it 1.5 times to review it.
Playing it on the computer matters more than anything. I'm looking at a photo on Board Game.
I don't think I would ever want to play this one physically.
Of people playing this in person with chips and boards all over the place.
It's an eclipse on the table.
It's even worse. It's like a disaster. It's like it would take you. People say it takes 6-7 hours to play this, and I believe you. If you're playing this in person, right? There are some things that might actually go faster than playing it online,
like mergers and acquisitions.
Is anyone merging? Okay, no, whatever, right? You can just skip that. And online, you have to wait for everyone to click the pass button.
But all right, now there's 12 train companies because people IPO'd like crazy.
Right. The busy work involved in playing this game in person is just enormous. The rule book is actually hard to read because I'm playing it online, but a lot of the stuff in the rule book actually describes what to do with the physical pieces in the game, and I don't need that. All I need to know is how the system works of the game. I don't need to know the physical pieces because I'm playing online.
But the design is elegant in that the physical system, like the physical pieces, do completely encapsulate the system. And if you have those physical components, it does offload that from your brain elegantly. But if you don't have those physical components, nothing explains the mechanic.
Yep, exactly. So, but yeah, so what is the thing is, as scary as it is, right? With all the short selling, merging, buying, liquidating, all that stuff. You think it's complicated, but it took me one game to sort of figure it out. Reading the rules, I read them over several times, and I
Yep.
didn't really grasp it until we played once. Now I fully grasp it. So,
Yep.
at
But
least
part of the way
90% plus grasp.
part of the way I
Not
grasped it
100%.
was because I could do things like click merger, look at what happened, and
That's what I did
decide,
too.
oh, that's a terrible idea, and hit undo.
That's
But
exactly what I
to
did. in
do
the
that
first
with
game.
physical components would
Undoing, converting, undoing.
that would
to see how it
literally
works.
be, all right, everyone, go take a break. Rim's gonna calculate the valuation of his company for the next 10 minutes and decide which of these 3 paths to follow.
Yep. But playing online asynchronously, no one's got to wait, so it's pretty awesome.
But the TLDR on the why we're talking about this game is that these changes together, which we'll get into in detail, like why and how, they give agency to the players over the parts of the game that rankle us the most. In all the other 18xx games, even though they're simpler, they have this fundamental problem that there will be one part of the game, usually player order, but sometimes it's something slightly different, where you have almost no control over that order, yet that order determines whether or not you even have agency at key points in the game.
Yep.
In this game, there are many ways to manipulate that player order, more ways than in the other games. So as a result, you have more opportunities to do the crazy things that often only happen once or twice in the other 18xx games, to the point to where in 1846, if I have the opportunity to rust a train onto someone, I'm fucking doing it, because how rare is it that I have that opportunity?
Mm-hmm.
But in this game, I have the opportunity to do crazy stuff every round. The question is, do I want to do the crazy thing?
Yep.
That alone makes this game my favorite 18xx game already.
Mm-hmm.
And the listener in the stream already, when we said, oh, we're talking about 1817, Guy Dota immediately said 1817 is the best 18xx. All I do is eat, sleep, and think about 1817.
I mean, it is even though I've only played it once in a part-time.
Yeah, we're in
so
the middle of
far.
a second game of it right now.
Right. It is very great. I don't know if I can't say it's too soon for me to say it's the best, but I can see how you could say it's the best.
Yep,
It
it's
has
my
potential
favorite.
to be the best.
I saw complex strategies that I think I could execute that I did not need to execute because all of us playing are at about the same level of befuddlement in terms of how to be good at this game.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But I had a great time with it, and at no point did I feel... Every time there was a problem, like in the other 18xx games, very commonly Mira Scott will say something like, well, I had no control over that, and now I'm boned. And it's still fun, but I recognize the point after which I had no more agency. In this game, agency lasted for a long time for most of the players.
Yep. That's always my number one thing that makes me mad at any game is if there is a time at which any player, especially me, but any player, is not eliminated from the game, cannot win, but even worse than cannot win is cannot do anything, take any more meaningful actions.
Yep.
Right? That even affect you can't even king make. It's like you have no power in the game whatsoever. You can't buy a stock, you can't sell one, you can't buy a train, nothing is in your control. You have no decisions left, but you are still here and you're technically still playing.
Yep, you've got like one tokened off company. You've got 3 shares in the presidency in one tokened off company with a 5 train and nothing and no cash. Like, great.
Right. In 1817, if that happens, you'll go bankrupt.
Yep.
And you won't be playing anymore, but also it's very hard to go bankrupt. Your companies can just liquidate and maybe you can't win, but you can keep doing stuff. It's very hard to get to a point where you can't do anything.
Yep. So how does this game go? Now, if you haven't listened to our other 18xx reviews, or if you've never played one of these games, I suggest you check out one of those things first, because I don't want to necessarily explain the entirety of 18xx in order to then talk about 1817.
Right, to explain the entirety of 18xx and also explain 1817 would take forever. So I'll just keep it to the simplest possible explanation, which is that an 18xx game is a train game. There's an outside game and an inside game. In the outside game, you're human beings who are wealthy buying stocks in train companies. In the inside game, the train companies are the players, and they are playing a separate game of maps with tracks and shit, right? that inside game spits out money to the shareholders in the other game, right? If you are the president of a company, you take its turn in the inside game, but the winner of the whole game is the winner of the outside game, right? So you're investing in another game to win the real game, right? So in 1817, the reason it's so great is because in a lot of the other games, the outside game of the buying and selling shares is a very simple and restrictive game where turn order matters a lot.
Turn order matters a lot, and the decisions are usually extremely obvious. That is the best company.
And they're extremely limited. It's like, okay, you can buy share, buy a share in the best company. Okay, next person. I sell all these shitty shares and I buy a share in the best company. What? Next person. I start a new company. Okay, there's only 8 companies to choose from. I choose the best one. You know, it's like so few choices. In 1817, you can start any company anywhere. Then there's an auction. Then you can start short selling it. The companies are 2-share companies, 5-share companies, 10-share companies. You can merge them. You can convert them. You can have one company buy another company.
Yep.
You can take loans and go out of business. You can do you can do.
One of our friends short sold one of my companies, and then a little while later realized that was a bad idea because that company was just growing and growing and growing, and other people bought all the market shares. He could not cover his short. He was paying dividends all the way to the end.
Yep. All kinds of ridiculous things can happen. So, all the action is in the stock round. So at the start of the game, you know, you got your private auction, the normal private auction, right? It works pretty similarly to the other ones, except there's this government money, this seed money. The government wants trains to happen. So there's $200 in cash the government's given out. So you bid on these private companies. They have these set values. If the winner of the auction ends up bidding, their highest bid is less than the face value of the private company. Let's say it's an $80 company. The high bidder is paying $60. They bid $60 and that's it. No one's bidding higher than that. The government pays the extra $20. So the person who bought it and won the auction is getting $20.
Yep, you get subsidized.
Yeah. And then what do you do with the private companies? Well, in the other 18xx games, you would usually start a public company and then sell the private company to the public company, sometimes at cost, sometimes at a profit, you know, something like that. That's not how this works. Instead, in this one, you use the private companies to help you start public companies. So I want to start a public company for $200. I've got an $80 private. So when I start it, I pay the private $80 and $120 in cash, and that starts the public company, and the private company is now part of the public company.
Yep. Now there's pros and cons of this. On one hand, so I have a $100 private. I use it as part of the seed capital to start my public company, but now that public company doesn't get $100. It just gets that company and the power. The private is in the company, but now my company doesn't have any cash.
It has to take loans to get cash. All right, so that's the first thing that's different. The next thing, you start companies, these public companies. You're starting 2-share companies, which means you own the whole thing, and that's it. There's no selling or buying shares. They're just a 2-share company.
If I pay out, I just get all the money.
If you withhold, the company keeps all the money. And in other 18xx games, it's often a very easy choice whether you withhold or pay out, and sometimes half pay. It's a really easy choice.
Yep, a lot of them don't even let you half pay.
Yeah, some of them would even let you half pay, and it's always obvious. It's like always pay out unless you have to withhold, and only withhold if you have to or if you're gonna buy a train right now.
I think I used all 3 options like repeatedly in varying situations throughout the entire first game of this we played.
1817, the payout, withhold, and half pay options it's a meaningful decision every single turn, and it's none of the options are rarely obviously wrong. It's like there's merits to all 3, like every single time.
Yep.
And it's an interesting decision that has huge consequences, right? You can withhold and pay off your company's loans and make your company really strong so its stock price will, you know, not get out of control, right? You don't want the stock price to be too high because you can be short sold.
Unless it's a 2-share company.
Right, but in 18xx companies, you know, in other 18xx games, you just want the share price to go up. You don't really want it to go down ever. In 1817, you don't want it to get too high because it will be sold short often.
Yep. Now, in case you're not familiar with this concept, this is a real world stock thing where basically, normally you think like, I buy some stock from Scott, the Scott Exchange. I buy some stock in Scott. Later, I sell some stock. I pass these certificates back and forth. But imagine I don't have any Scott stock and I sell Scott stock anyway. I basically sell an IOU.
Something you don't have.
I sell an IOU to someone else. That is real in the real world. That happens in the stock market. It happens for a reason. It's probably good that it exists, but let's not get into that. But the problem is I now owe that person a real share of the stock at some point in the future, which means either I have to give them a real share at some point, or I have to pay them anything that happens to that stock.
So I sell Rim a share of Company X, right? But I don't have a share of Company X. I don't own one. All right. Rim now, basically, he doesn't own one either, but he's got a contract from me that basically says, yeah, you have to pretend that I own one.
So Company X pays out a big dividend. Scott has to pay me the dividend that I would rightfully get.
It's like Rim saying, hey, if I had actually owned a real share of Company X right now, I'd be getting $100. But I don't. I just have an IOU from Scott that says I owe you one Company X share. So Scott's now on the hook to pay Rim $100.
Now, in the real world, there's this concept of like borrowing the stock. Like I actually would, like someone selling short borrows the stock from someone, or there's a naked short. It gets complicated. This is a board game. It's not that complicated. In the board game, the way this is reflected, if I sell short in someone else's company, I basically just put a short share marker to say that I'm short in the company, and I sell it to the market and get the cash as though I'd sold it. Free money.
So, right. So this is really interesting because now short selling is it is a way to say, hey, that company is overvalued, right? I'm going to sell it even though I don't own it, and then it's going to go down, and then I'll buy it back and make a profit that way. That is the basic fundamentals of, stocks, right? Buy low, sell high. Well, if it's already high and you don't own any, sell high, and then when it goes down,
buy low.
It's the opposite, right? But in an 18xx game, a game in which you don't start with a lot of money and you spent a lot of it on private companies, and all your companies are two-share companies that you can't sell, you need to get cash to do business, right? You can't, and the companies can take loans, but you can't take loans as a person. So what the hell do? You sell short in something to get instant cash. You sell something you don't have, and poof, a pile of dollar bills appears in front of you that you can invest. And if that investment pays off and the company you shorted sucks, you're making money on both ends. You sold something high, it goes down, and the money you got when you sold it high is making positive gains in a company you started with it. And then you use those positive gains to buy the cheapo share in the company that was failing that you shorted in, and it's good times. So this helps you players, right, who in other 18xx games might be stuck saying, well, nothing to do this turn, I got no cash and I don't want to sell anything, can instead say, well, what's overvalued? I'm going to short something and suddenly I'm going to do business. So there's a lot more activity because you can have a lot more liquidity.
Yep. There's a little bit of push your luck though there, because in the real world, shorting stock, like the common line, if you talk to like an investment manager or like take a basic class in this stuff, is
risky as hell, don't do it.
Shorting stock has moderate upsides and unlimited downsides. Literally unlimited. In the real world, I short Apple, and Apple just keeps going up and up and up and up and up and up and up. I am fucked.
Yeah, so if I buy a share of Apple, what's a share of Apple cost? Probably a fortune.
A lot right now.
Yeah. Okay, so I buy one share of Apple, whatever it costs, right? The worst case scenario, Apple goes out of business. I lose the money I spent. Let's say there's another company that's only $100 a share. I buy a share. I can lose $100. That's all I can lose. I put $100 in a slot machine. Well, how much can I lose? 100. Imagine it as a slot machine, and you can lose infinity because the price can just never stop going up.
Yep, and in the real world, at some point, you are forced to cover that share, meaning you are forced by law and contract to go buy Apple stock no matter what it costs. Yeah, and give it to the person you sold it short to.
It's now $1 million a share. You just lost $9,999,900.
So the shorting is really interesting. That's a way that unlocks the game by letting players have an option to take risks to get capital, but the companies can also take loans. The combination of the loans and the fact that half pay, full pay, withhold, dividends are all valid options means that you have a lot of flexibility in how you run your company. You can do things like take a bunch of loans. Every time you take a loan, your stock price drops, but you get capital. Use the capital to buy trains.
Overvalued, maybe take some loans to bring it down. That's a good idea.
Or maybe take some loans to drive your stock price down, then buy back shares in the market into your own company treasury. Then next turn, pay the loans back, your stock goes back up, and then you or other players buy those treasury shares and put even more money into the company.
Yep. All kinds of shenanigans are now possible, right?
We could spend an hour outlining all the shenanigans you can get up to with this simple set of rules.
In other 18xx games, a company would be capitalized. It would get its cash by selling all the treasury shares, and that would probably be the end of it. Like, it wouldn't get any more cash ever. Like, it buys trains with that money, and then it just never buys trains again. The end, right? It's like, unless some other company comes along with its money to help that first company out, that first company might just end up being ruined and ruin the president because they had to buy a train with their own money. Here, loans. It's like, oh, I need all my trains rusted. I need a new train. I'll take some loans and buy a new train.
Yep. Now, like I said, every time you take a loan, not only does the stock price of your company just move left in the market, like every loan, stock price goes down. Every payoff, stock price goes up. Loans have interest, and the interest rises depending on how many loans everyone collectively has taken out. So every operating round, you've got to pay that interest on the loans you have not paid off.
Yep.
That can be a problem.
This is why you're going to be half paying and withholding. So the company keeps more cash because the company needs cash to pay off loans and pay off loans.
Or merging. Your company's in dire straits. You merge it with another 2 company that has a lot of cash. Now you got a 5-share company that can pay off all its loans.
And if a company merges or converts, there might be more shares in the treasury that can now be sold to infuse the company with more capital.
Yep, and the company now merges their tokens together, and now you have a larger space, a bigger footprint on the map to operate and make more revenue, theoretically. So there's 2 companies, 2-share companies. You can convert them to 5-share companies. There's a process for that, where you then get the opportunity to buy up treasury shares. You can also merge 2 2-share companies together into a 5-share company. And then 5-share companies can themselves be converted up into 10-share companies, or 2 5-share companies can merge into a 10-share company.
Oh, yeah.
That's a whole aspect of the game by itself. There's a big set of power plays around things like make 2 companies that are near each other that kind of synergize, then merge them, take a bunch of loans, buy a giant train, and now you're cooking.
Yep. You can also, there's selling companies. So if company's stock price gets too low, they enter the acquisition zone. If a company is in the acquisition zone, any other company can just forcibly buy it.
Like, for nothing.
Well, potentially nothing.
Yeah, for very little.
If a company enters the liquidation zone, it just goes away. So you don't get ruined by being in a situation where your company needs a train and doesn't have one, because the company will just go.
Yeah, that's the biggest difference of all train games. This is a train game where, an 18x game, you are totally allowed to just not fucking buy a train.
But you will have to pay off any loans that are still in there.
Yep,
So
the president of the company is on the hook for the loans of any company that gets liquidated.
Yep.
That can be.
The acquisition part can be the forced acquisition if the stock price gets too low. There's also friendly acquisition. You can just say, hey, you know what? This company that's not doing poorly at all, it's for sale. Who wants to buy it?
Yep.
And just sell it and see what it's worth on the market. If it ends up being worth more than its current stock value, like, you just made bank.
You basically got to buy like all the shares in the company, but the game just handles it. Like, there's a whole process for it. But yeah, the company might not be doing well for Scott, but I have a company that would really, really be able to leverage all those tokens Scott's got. I might pay a premium to Scott so Scott can cash out on that company. He's doing better, and I get all those tokens. Now I'm doing better. Screw everybody else.
So many interesting, ridiculous things. Now,
We haven't even scratched the
fun-
surface of how all the systems
right,
work either.
right. No, the one big thing that I think is the best is that so few things the turn order matters, and when the turn order does matter, you can manipulate it more. So
Yep.
the biggest way the turn order doesn't matter is that so many things are now auctioned, right? Where versus before, where it's first come first.
Yep, even an IPO. I do an IPO, brand new company. I say the price I want to open it at, like what's the share price. I say where the token's going to start. And then we go around bidding on what that IPO is actually going to be. If Scott starts in the spot I wanted, I can outbid him.
There's also bidding for the privates, and there's bidding for there's something. Oh, if something is going to be sold, if someone wants to sell a company, there's bidding to sell the company.
Yep. And
Um,
one other like fiddly aspect that's really nice. During stock, you can take loans at any time with your companies, both during stock rounds and operating rounds.
yep.
So during the stock round, you might take a loan randomly, like in the middle of a stock round, to lower the value of your company so it goes after some other company that is going to buy the last shitty 4 train so you can get the 5 train.
Or you might be sitting in the stock round and saying, "Man, my company is going to get sold short. That's not good. I mean, it's valued at $300 a share right now. It's maybe worth 200. RIM's going to sell it short. That's not a good deal. Let me take 10 loans."
Yep.
Now the stock price went down to crap now. RIM can't really sell it. RIM sells it short. He's going to get $100 less per sold short share. And that's going to be good times, right?
Yep.
So,
But you can only pay off loans during one specific phase in the operating rounds.
See it.
There's a lot else we could talk about, but I think that another thing that's interesting is the train situation is very different. In the first OR operating round, there's an unlimited number of $100 2 trains, so you don't have to play that game of buy all the 2 trains, they rust immediately.
And you can buy them with loans. So
Yep.
you can start a bunch of companies and get a bunch of 2 trains.
But like the operating order in the first rounds only matter for tiles because everyone can buy as many 2 trains as they want. So the choice is not how many 2 trains do I buy based on what everyone else is buying to get the game into a certain phase, like push it to green at the right time. The decision is now, how many 2 trains do I want for this company? And then there's some 2 plus trains.
How many are going to make up the $100 loan I had to take to get them?
Yep. There are 2 plus, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 trains. Like the game is a long, slow cycle of trains that give you a lot of time to mess around. And the game basically ends when someone buys the first 8 train or the first 8 train gets exported. Then it's the end of the game.
So yeah, if you are someone who likes a stock market kind of game, right? And think, because the stock markets and other 18xx games are too simple. And, the train action is still there, but it's not as big as the train action in some of the other ones. Then this is the 18xx for you. If you don't want any trains, but you want stock market action, you should go play Black Friday.
Yeah.
The different game by Friedman Freeze.
I would like to play that game. I really like that game.
I do like that game a lot, yeah. But yeah, of the 18xx I've played, this one has the best stock market. There is still turn order, but it doesn't matter as much. And it almost provides too much freedom, right? It's like just because you can doesn't mean you should.
But that's a difference in feel. In a lot of other 18xx games, if you can, you often should with weird stuff.
Yep, exactly.
In this game,
Whereas here, there's so many things you can do, but should you? Probably not.
Yep. So I think it's my favorite 18xx game because the only thing I don't like about them is how little agency I have over the player order, which itself tends to control a lot of the opportunities you might have. In this game, you have a lot of agency over the player order, well, more so than you do in other 18xx games, but also you aren't as tied to that in terms of your opportunities.
Yeah, well, I mean, also the player turn order, it doesn't just matter as much because in the other 18xx, there'll be like 7 companies. That's it, right? So you want to go first, so you can, sell, dump on someone, or buy a company, be able to buy the good companies. You don't get C&O or whatever, right?
Yep. Companies
But
can
here,
start
it's like,
anywhere.
there's a pile of companies. They're all the same. It doesn't matter. They're just different colors, right?
Yep.
It's like, there's
Pick
no
the one
reason
that
to
has the
fight.
nice name. I like the big
And
J.
even if someone tries to start one before you, they're going to auction it. It's not going to just be they go first and get it. So, whatever.
Yeah. I think that was a fine show. I've
Ordered
stopped
some diner
recording.